everyone, and welcome to Writers Drinking Coffee. This is a podcast where a bunch of writers sit around drinking and talking about writing, publishing, and the whole creative process. We do not censor ourselves, so consider us PG-13. Today, your hosts are Chaz and Karen Brenchley, David Welsh, and me, Jeannie Warner. This is episode 101, interview with Jordan Heron. Welcome, Jordan.
Hi there.
I love that it's 101 here somehow, too.
101. Am I allowed to point out that I'm drinking Ryan Coke, not coffee?
Yes.
Good choice. I'm on wine. We're on wine.
We're drinking wine. Yeah, red coffee is the best coffee.
It's true.
Hey, I'm wearing my T-shirt today that says that.
Are you?
Yep.
You've got my words on your chest.
Indeed.
Well, Jordan makes movies. He started acting in commercials, showing up for casting calls, and then discovered what he was really good at directing. And then he needed scripts. So he adopted short stories into scripts and then has written some of his own. And it's a perfectly logical progression, right, Jordan?
Yeah, progression, that's it.
Deliberate. I'm sure this was entirely your career to somehow end up at the Academy Awards, right?
Right. I came fully formed from the forehead of my mother going, hey, maybe I could make a short film.
I love some that you've done. You have been to with, I believe it's Barn 11 Productions.
Yes.
You guys have been to a lot of international film, what's the word?
Festivals.
Yes, we've been to quite a few, none that you'd have heard of. But, still, we like to pride ourselves in going somewhere.
Well, it's an international film festival just by itself. And you just say that, and people will imagine all sorts of exotic, wonderful places with movie stars.
If we're starting with the festival stories, the first festival I went to, I was nominated as a supporting actor in a short film, and it was down the road from Nice, France. So it's like, so where are you going? Oh, we're going to a film festival in Nice. You're going to the Nice Film Festival? Well, no, not the Nice Festival, a festival that is in Nice. And all of my friends went, well, that's close enough. We took the train to Nice to look at the real festival, which was opening the next week. And we stood on the red carpet, well, as close as we could get to the red carpet without annoying the security guards. And then we went back to our festival.
So what kind of movies do you make that would, bring you to a film festival in Nice? What genre? What are they? Music? Are they acting involved? Do you act in them? Tell us about your movies.
Well, that first one, I was an actor. I was recruited by some guys I had never known. They found my demo reel online somewhere and said, "Hey, we should talk to him." And this was very early in my acting career, and it was a real boost. I had a couple of really early boosts in my career, which is why I'm still trying to do it, even though I've been mostly a failure. Initial successes gave me hope, and I don't have the initial success anymore, but I still have that hope.
Really, that's the worst thing that can happen to you.
Yeah.
Pandora's box. It was the scariest thing.
From a career move, yes. I was interested in being an actor, and if you're an actor, you usually do narrative fiction. Actors aren't really needed in documentaries or in music videos or things like that, except as background people or whatever. So narrative fiction was what I assumed I would do as an actor, and these guys recruited me. The ego boosting bit I was going to tell you about is there wasn't an audition per se. They called me and said they wanted to meet for coffee somewhere and just talk to me. So we talked, and I said, "So what's the process from here?" And they said, "Someone else we have to talk to next week." And then 2 days later, they called me and said, "We've decided you've got the part." I said, "You were supposed to see someone next week." "Well, after we saw you, we really just canceled all the others."
Yay.
Wow.
That was the real ego boost. And I was playing a low-level drug lord who was seriously off his nut.
Well, wait a minute. Let's back up then, because, maybe it wasn't such a compliment now. Maybe you seem typecast to them as a off-the-nut drug lord.
It's the hair and the beard and the old scraggly white guy routine. The funny thing is that when I started acting, it depends on how much backstory you want here. I decided very late in life, through a bizarre series of happenstance, that the entertainment industry was cool and that would be fun. And I was going to be an actor actor. And then I thought, well, what are all the things that are tangential to acting that I might end up having to do? And I thought, I could do a comedy routine. So I started gathering up things that were happening to me as a new actor that I thought were funny. And to Dave's point, one of them was how deflating it is when you have been cast as background as a homeless person and you walk up to wardrobe and makeup and hair and they go, oh no, you're good. Thanks. I think. So yeah, being typecast as the insane drug lord who's going to get murdered by his number one henchman may not be a shining recommendation for my character, but or maybe even my acting if they just thought I was like that all the time.
So what movie was this?
Oh, it was a short film called First is the Worst. It was, I honestly don't know if the guys were making it as a hopefully we will make this into a larger show if we can get funding. Because I did point out that they had killed me. So if they got funding for a larger show, I didn't care. I wasn't in it anyway.
There's always zombie possibilities in some of these.
Right. And twin brothers and all those other improbable devices they
the TV show Supernatural is both the dream and the bane of all actors because you can die and never leave the show.
Yes, that's a good point.
And I would love to do that. On the other hand, if the demon switches bodies, your character can live and you're still out. It's like,
right.
Well, no, your character's still there, but we're not using your meat suit anymore. So
it cuts both ways.
Yeah.
But the show went off the air last year.
Yes, so, finally.
No.
There could be more.
That's the only 15-season show that I have all the DVDs for.
Wow.
There's a lot.
So can we find your films on YouTube or something? Are they out there?
Not the End of the World is on Amazon.
Yeah, wait, you're in America.
Yes.
You're in America.
Am I not supposed to say that? I'm in Canada. I believe I have 2 short films on Amazon Prime, but I don't know. I can't see them because they're on the US side and not on the Canadian side. The first one that we did was Not the End of the World.
Yep.
How nepotistic are we allowed to be here?
Very.
Oh, we pimp ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's Jeannie's short story. The thing she alluded to, I could back up and tell you another story of how we got to Not the End of the World. But the other one is called Missy. Missy is on Prime. Missy is something that I actually wrote. There was an awesome website, I think it still exists in Canada, where if you were an aspiring writer but didn't know what to do, you could go to this website and it would randomly generate a plot line from Canadian stereotypes.
Oh, I love it.
I went to this website and I clicked on it. It was like a Saskatoon girl travels across the country and lives in a Nova Scotia lighthouse. It's like, well, I don't.
Wait, was this associated with the Canada Film Board?
I'll click again. So I just kept clicking until I hope not. Anyway, I clicked on it until it came up with an old man and his dog reminisce about the good youth that may never have existed while they drink a Tim Hortons coffee. And I went, I can write that. I have a dog. There's a Tim Hortons nearby because I'm in Canada. So there's always a Tim Hortons nearby.
Yeah,
it's true.
So I wrote something. And unlike real writers who I like to think have a plan and an idea, I think that was the most successful writer in the crowd yelling.
No, it's an ongoing theme of our podcast here: planning versus not planning, or plotting versus pantsing, as we call it and hate to call it. And want
we've
something
decided
else
to call it organic growth instead of pantsing.
Right. So you're an organic growth sort of writer as opposed to the plotters.
I think you should seriously plot out a feature film. But when you're writing a short, I just start writing and see where it goes. And I've done two shorts like that have been moderately successful in my opinion. And that was one of them. I just started writing and it ended up being a very touching piece about a guy who was dying or perhaps already dead, depending on how metaphorical you think the film is, and who was coming to terms with that, the end of his life, and his dog is there to take him literally, to the other side when he's ready.
He's a psychopomp. I love
It was-
psychodrama.
I love that word.
It's a touching little piece, and it's all narration from the old man's point of view. So we didn't have to worry about syncing up sound when we were filming. Yeah, it's a lovely little piece.
It's also out there, so I'm going to put a link to it so people can
Yeah.
find it more easily.
Jordan, I have a really important question for you. Do you get residuals if we watch it on Prime?
That would be a theoretical yes, but I think Prime, you need like 100 million views to earn a nickel.
We can do that. This is a podcast. This is a podcast. It's going out to millions, I tell you.
Yeah.
Well, these short films have in paper distribution. I have signed them over for X number of years to a Canadian partner who is partnered with somebody in New York who I believe put them on Amazon Prime. It's not like they tell me these things. And every quarter I get a statement from them telling me how I don't get any money.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I mean, it's a short film. I never expected to make money from it. That's not really the purpose with most short films.
Okay, so is it the case that most short films are made with a view to catching the eye of the guy who can get you to make a long film, a feature film? Are they seen as stepping stones, or are they a thing in themselves?
They are an art form in themselves. They really are. But the short answer is yes. Every short film producer I know wants to make features.
Right.
The funny thing is, I did go to a couple of festivals in Europe back when we were allowed to travel, and I hope to go back again. The funny thing is that the particular film circuit I like to go to is filmmaker focused. There's like the public just doesn't show up. I mean, there's a few ads around town saying free film festival, show up, and nobody does. But the film festival, the filmmakers show up, and it's a networking thing, and it's a mutual drinking and support gig. Like, hey, how much money have you spent on this? Are you ever going to get ahead? No. Are you ever going to quit? No. That kind of thing in the bar.
Right.
But the funny thing is, when I look at the schedule, the people who are like, I finally made a feature film, please come and see it. And I'm like, I could see your feature film, or I could see these 8 short films.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to go see the 8 short films. The funny thing is, we all want to make a feature, and once we do, nobody wants to look at it because it takes too long. Which is actually a benefit with the COVID. The festivals that I particularly like to go to have moved online. I actually get to see more films now sitting at my computer in Canada than I used to when I would fly to Spain. I mean, there's only so many hours in a day, and you want to do some sightseeing and eating and drinking, whatever. Now the festival's online, and I can watch all kinds of stuff, more than I ever did when I was there. So I'm really hoping that we continue a hybrid model once we go back to traveling. The film circuit I really like. I guess I should mention them. It's the Fusion Festival. Fusion North is in London, England. South is in Valencia, Spain. East is in Warsaw, and West is in Brussels. And I've been to the Spanish one and to the Warsaw one. But I can only afford to go like to 1 or 2 a year if I'm lucky. But if they go into a hybrid model online, I get to go to all of them. Some of them in person and some of them at home.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
So talking of affording things, can you talk a bit about budgets and how you raise them and where the money comes from and how much it's likely to be, or is it just so very different for every film that you can't?
It is very different for every film, so you can't make too many generalizations.
Yeah.
But every short film I do, I'm a project manager by trade and during the day to pay the bills. So doing a plan and a budget, I mean, if I was going into the film industry for real, I really should be a line producer. But of course, at my age, it's hard to find somebody who's willing to pay me enough money to do it when I've never done it before. So your point is, when I do every time I do a short film, I do a budget, a full-on budget. And I say, okay, I'm going to need these people. I'm going to need this. I'm going to need this. This is how much the industry rates are, And this film is going to cost me $40,000 to make. And then I look at how much I'm actually going to pay people and who I can get for free. And the fact is that I know that I put in X amount of money for directing and acting, which I'm doing, and I'm not paying myself. So you can do a short film for literally nothing.
Sure.
If you have the right people, the right resources, I went to a festival once that had an independent feature film, and they did the feature film for $17,000. Whereas my first short film cost me more than that.
Yeah.
And I do break the cardinal rule of filmmaking, which is don't pay for your own stuff.
Indeed.
And I do. The very first film, I feel I talked a little bit too much about Missy, because then I shortchanged Jeannie here. My very first short film was an adaptation of, as I said earlier, Not the End of the World, which is a short story that Jeannie wrote. And I literally, I don't want to diss Jeannie here.
Go on. We love it.
Go ahead.
Do it. I am Aunt Nikki in that film. I'll have you know. They can hear my voice.
I had read a few of Jeannie's stories. She had been kind enough to send them to me. And I read Not the End of the World. And I didn't go, my God, this is the best one. I didn't go, oh my God, this story is wonderful. I went, oh my God, I could do this. Like, it's a guy and an angel in a house and in a driveway. I have a house, I have a driveway and a car. I can find a guy, to play an angel. I can do all of these things. So although I did like the story, it was not my favorite story. It was just the one I figured I had the means to do. And what I did...
Tentacles are harder. It's true.
Yeah, it is. It is. I still want to do The Fishwife, but, that's going to need a budget. So I did up a full budget. And as I said, it was in the $40,000 range. Then I reached out to some friends, and I got people to cut rates, but I paid them. Everybody who worked on that film got paid by me out of my pocket. So here's the thing. And this is where Barn 11 Productions came from that Jeannie referred to earlier. After we did Not the End of the World, the core of the team, meaning the guy who owned all the camera equipment and his wife, who is his assistant, and a friend of mine who acted as first assistant director, they came to me and said, we know you don't have any money, but we had so much fun. Let's do it again. So I have made every short film since that first one with the same crew, and we only pay you if we don't like you. Like, if you're part of the team, if you're working for free, it's because you're one of us.
That's brilliant.
It's true.
If we need an actor, if we need an actor to do a bit part, we got to pay him because we don't want to cut him into this team, right? So some people, they come, we pay them, they go away. But the core of the team is like 3 or 4 people, and no one gets paid. We're doing this for fun, and we're doing it for each other, and we're doing our own material. And Jeannie's when I can.
Yes, yes, indeed. So when you talk about short films, are these on film stock or are they all digital?
No, everything's digital. I could never have done this.
That's what I was.
Digital age.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Carol was pointing out that there are great cameras built right into people's phones if you just turn it sideways and start shooting these days.
And you can do that. You're right. There have been feature films done on iPhones, but to me, that's a gimmick. Unless you're so poor that all you have is a phone, then fine, use a phone. But a 4K digital camera, 4K is the new standard. Sure. But a 4K digital camera is like $800. If you wanted to, it's probably cheaper than the best iPhone. But if I had to buy film stock and a film camera or rent a film camera,
and then there's the editing.
I just couldn't do this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's editing. Long ago, when I was like 14, I decided I was going to make movies, and I read, I think, a book that talked about how to write a script, and I very carefully wrote scripts. And I got my high school buddies to be in one of the movies. One was a Western and one was a science fiction movie. And we did them on the first one on reel-to-reel videotape, and the second one on a cartridge videotape. And we showed them on the community access television station, because every city in the United States has a community access television station as part of the cable stuff, so that anyone can show anything on it. And so I actually had fans who would call into this there and say, "You haven't played. It came from a test tube in a while. Will you play it again?" But yeah, it was the. Well, the thing is, I actually showed my science fiction movie to Kate Elliott, actually, who's a friend of mine, and she watched it. She's very polite. She actually watched it, and then she looked thoughtful as she does, and says, "That was very well written. Well, anyway, my point of going there is there's so many different ways these days of showing your movies. Have you explored those? Do any of those pay? Is the only way to get an audience for the movies you've made the way you have set up, or what's available out there to, if I wanted to make another science fiction movie, some in my dotage, what's available?
I'm not exactly the expert on this. One of the problems with being a film, well, you've pointed out a double-edged sword. There are so many ways that you can get online. The blessing is that anybody can do it.
And the tragedy is that everybody does it.
The tragedy is that everybody does it. So how you get found or noticed or viewed in this world is very difficult. And I have a full-time day job to pay the bills. I have a part-time day job working for my wife, and I live on a small horse farm, which is an evening job. So when I want to make a film, I want to make a film. I don't want to run a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I don't want to curate an OnlyFans site,
Yeah.
Because I think OnlyFans would be an awesome place to go. Hey, cuisine, strippers, and me,
I want to dig back to an idea that you had there, because I was thinking if somebody said, hey, I want to make films, or I want to write a screenplay, because man, ever since I took that class on screenplays, everybody's talking about them. Yeah. It strikes me that if you were going to start making a film, that almost like Damien Trassler was saying, look around and say, what do you have and what'll be easy? Like when we were talking about a full-length horror strip, and I said it in the past, you're like, oh, Jeannie, you had $50,000 just by making it not in the present tense. So
that scene.
Yeah, just that scene. So So suddenly think to yourself, I want to write The Martian. Yeah, no, you don't. Not right now. Not for your first
right now.
thing.
No, and that is literally why I adapted Not the End of the World first, because I could do that. Missy, I wrote, and we made that film because I could do that. My second film, or the third significant short film, is called GPS, which is not yet available anywhere because it's still trying to desperately crawl through the festival circuit. That's a guy whose dead mother is haunting the GPS in his car. Again,
cool.
Again, an easy thing to film. We needed my car, a GPS, and a cemetery. I have all these things around here.
Now, I have to say that out on barn11productions.com, I find that you have Rhode Island Dead. Chicken Run meets Blade Runner, film noir detective of a chicken.
We have not made that one yet. We got bogged down in pre-production.
Did you have to keep eating the main stars, or?
The chicken. If you saw the photo of that chicken, he's long dead. I have one of his relatives, but I don't know if we'll use that. But we really got bogged down. We had a really great time planning that, and we have some props made. I've got a table full of props out in the studio. Studio is a grand word for one end of my barn where I store my film stuff.
Really? Is it Barn 11 by any chance?
It is. That's where the name came from. We live on what was part of a commercial fryer chicken operation. Oh, so okay. On my property, I have barns 11 and 12. and the neighbor has 2. I don't know what number hers are because I haven't gone over to look. And we don't know where the rest of them are. But we were actually making Missy when we named the project, because it was like, we've got it. We need a name for our production company. And somebody looked over and went, well, it's Barn 11 here. And surprisingly, everybody who was on set that day went, because we were shooting literally in front of Barn 11. Somebody said, well, that's the name then, Barn 11 Productions. And it stuck. And it's actually now incorporated. Barn 11 Productions Incorporated is a film production company here that has never made a dime.
But tell me, Two Dogs Fucking, why do you ask that question?
What do you find that draws you towards directing rather than acting or writing or the whole damn thing?
Because I can make it happen. And that's part of the project management part of my brain, I guess. My job is to make things happen. And I would love to be an actor. I would love to have someone call me up and say, hi, we'd like you to come and work. Here's the pile of money we're going to give you. And I mean, that would be easy. I would love to do it. I mean, not that acting is easy. I don't want to piss off the real actors who are listening. I understand that acting is a hard job, but it's something I could do. Someone else would create the environment and then hire me to act there. And I would love that. But since nobody is hiring me to do that, I am going to make that happen. I am going to write a short film. I mean, the first short film was just meant to be a vehicle for me. I wanted to act in Not the End of the World, and that would be me. And, well, who's going to do this? Well, nobody's going to do this unless me does it. So I said, I'm going to direct, I'm going to produce. I knew nothing about any of this. The two people on my team who actually had done this before were very kind and helpful. And they let me pretend that I was in charge.
Excellent.
And I learned an awful lot. And to your question, I found that I enjoyed the creative process of making the film. I was raised as a science and math geek in high school, and our homeroom called our chemistry teacher Mom. I did not do arts. I played piano, but I didn't ever feel like an artist. And the very first time I went to the Milton Film Festival, which is a local film festival near here, and I got to stand on stage and introduce Not the End of the World, I went, I'm an artist.
Hey.
I've never said that before in my life, and that's really weird. And I then said, and if I can do it, any of you can. It's a lot of fun. You should all go make a film. None of them did, which is fine, because I don't need the competition.
Maybe none of them did yet.
Yet. At least not that I've seen. Not at that festival. But yeah, I find that I like the logistics of running a film production, because that's my wheelhouse in project management. I like the acting when I do that part. I'm really getting to love editing, to making a story out of the bits of film that I've got. It's an awesome process, and it's sad that you can't be an expert in all of them and kind of make a living in all of them. I mean, a feature film is too big for one person to do all of that, but it would be fun to write, direct, edit. Your whole feature, and I'm sure there are independents who've done that, and I'm sure they wanted help.
You mentioned once that many people's first feature film is thereby horror. Why is that?
There's a common belief that horror sells and has a really good ROI, return on investment. You can spend $50,000 making a horror film, and there will be an audience for it. Not everyone believes this, but a lot of people do, and so that's why a lot of people do a feature film as their first feature film as a horror, because it's relatively cheap to do, and there's supposedly a good audience for it out there. But again, getting back to my previous statements, I don't want to be a distributor. I don't want to be a content curator. I don't want to run, my own YouTube channel or whatever platform. I want to make a movie and then either put it on the shelf and go, hey, I made a movie that was cool, or have someone else sell it or do something with it.
Yeah, I'm much the same. I was fascinated by the notion of self-publishing once it became actually practical.
Yes.
But I don't want to have to pick a cover and choose a typeface and yada yada doo-da. I want someone else to do that for me, because what I'm good at is writing.
See, I would do all that stuff. It's the selling part that I don't like.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
You universally need somebody who really enjoys sales.
And it's tough. I mean, I was at an online festival. The online festivals I tend to hang out with, that European group. They had this guy. It's like, we have a platform meant for independent filmmakers. You submit stuff to us, and we curate. We do all this. We do all the stuff for it. We love you, independent short filmmakers. And I went, this is cool. And I submitted my film, and a month later I got a thank you, but we don't have a need for your content at this time. Oh, fuck off.
I've seen a few of those. Oh, yes, absolutely. Send us something right now. We'll publish everything. Liar.
Right. Yeah, and when I got their email, it's like, well, if these guys don't want me, I'm done.
What are you working on now? Put them aside. They're dead to us. what do you actually want to do next?
Okay, so the only thing I've done during COVID is I put together what my other producing team calls my bovine snuff film. Years ago, one of my trips to Spain, actually it was the first film festival I went to in Madrid. We went to see a bullfight, and that has all kinds of ethical connotations. But the one of the people in our party said we should go see this before it's illegal. So we went, and I took a dinky little camcorder along with me, and I filmed a bunch of the fights. And I am not overly sentimental. I mean, I've hunted for meat. I understand that things live, things die. Vegans have a lot of respect for me, but I'm never going to be one. But I saw this, and I watched the bull through these fights. I watched what happened, and I watched him die. And I thought, someone needs to put poetry behind this. And so I emailed the bullfighting arena, and I said, hi, I have some footage, and I'm going to make a short film. And they wrote back, absolutely not. You will not do that. And I went, okay. And so I put it away. And then in the pandemic, it's like, I can't film anything. I can't film anything. You know what? Screw them. They're never going to see the film. If they do, they can send me a cease and desist, and I'll take it down. So I edited together the film. I had a friend of mine read Khalil Gibran's The Beauty of Death, and I put them together, and I sent it out to a film festival. So I did that during COVID. Cool. Because I didn't have to leave the house to do it. And that's meant to be just thought-provoking. It's not an anti-bullfighting film, although
the Coliseum probably thinks of it that way if they ever see it.
I'm sure they do. But it's kind of just put out there without comment. But so we were actually starting to make a film when COVID hit. And then during COVID, although not COVID related, my director of photography died.
Aww.
He won 2 cinematography awards for my production company doing our short films. He was really awesome, and he was the one that helped me the most get into this business. And so his wife, who was writing the short film we were working on, has said, I really have to rethink this, and we want to pick that one up again, but we're in the middle of COVID. That's something that's called What Remains, and that is on our radar for as soon as COVID seriously lifts. We have something called The Old Dog, which is not about a dog. It's about a guy who is coming to terms with a very dysfunctional family and the death of a father. And we're going to film that very soon, despite COVID, because that is literally a one-person film. I'm the only actor in it. My producing partner is going to film and do all that. And we're just doing it at my house. So we don't need film permits or insurance or any of that sort of stuff. That'll be easy to do. So those are the 2 projects that are closest on our radar. But we have so many things we want to do. Lawn Gnomes is another short story that Jeannie wrote. And I can see that in my mind. I've been able to see that in my mind since I read it. We may actually get back to Rhode Island Dead if we can figure out how we're going to do all the sets for the chicken.
I'm the film noir chicken. It would be epic. It would be a legend, I think, across.
It would.
Jordan, how do you direct yourself?
I don't anymore. The first film, Not the End of the World, I acted in it and I directed it. However, I mean, if you're Clint Eastwood and you have money, you can act a scene, and then you can go and say, play that back for me. Everybody else, shut up, have a coffee. When you're working with a team that either you don't have the money to pay or who is working for free, you really have to be respectful of their time.
Yeah.
So I counted on the first AD and the director of photography in Not the End of the World to watch the screens, watch the monitors, and I would act. And at the end of it, I would look at those 2 and go, did we get it? And they'd say, yeah, we got it. When I got to the editing room, I went, oh, we didn't get it.
Okay.
And then in Missy, I did almost the same thing. So when we went to GPS, it's like, no, I'm not doing this. I handed it off to Robin Goodfellow, my producing partner, and I said, you direct it. I've written it. I've gotten the script as far as I'm going to take it. Now I'm going to act in it. You direct it. You have creative control. It was a bit frightening. And the funny thing is, when we got to our final, we're ready to roll, she goes, here's the final script. And I went, but I gave you the final script. No, this is the director's final script. Oh,
that's what creative will mean.
yeah. So we filmed it. She edited it, or she and her husband edited it. They put it together, and I watched the film, and I went, that's much better than what I had in my mind. So I got really lucky, and I've decided that I do not direct and act in the same film anymore. If I really want to direct a piece, then I got to find other actors.
Yeah.
And if I really want to act in a piece,
Yeah.
I got to find someone to direct it.
Yeah, I think that's wise. I've never understood how people do the two.
I wouldn't mind doing the two, but like I say, it would take twice as long to film.
What?
Because I would, after every take, I'd want to go and watch it.
Well, we will put links to all of the movies that are on Amazon and your websites and the different things up on our website, which is www.writersdrinkingcoffee.com. You can also find us on Facebook or Twitter. We will answer email. Jordan, if somebody has a question about how to do some of these things or where you got started, can I pass that email along? Would you be willing to answer them?
Oh, Lord. I don't know why anyone would take advice from me, but sure.
We're just saying,
Sure.
you're
you'd be
too old to
surprised.
start being a filmmaker. You don't have to be a 20-something running away to Hollywood.
Are we supposed to talk about age?
We're not 21. We've said that before.
No, I started acting very, very late in life. I did a bit of theater at my daughter's behest earlier, but I was like mid 50s and, laid off from my job. It's like, hey, I'm going to go and do background on set for fun. And I loved it. And I took some time. I tried to get an acting career together. It didn't work, at least not from a financial point of view. So I went back to work in IT project management jobs, but I still act and make films because I learned during that attempt to have a career that I wanted to do it anyway. So yeah, you can start at any age. It may not be financially rewarding at any age, but you can do it at any age.
It's all about the passion and love. And that's what I think we all do. You have to write because you want to. You have to be creative because you want to. And maybe you'll entertain somebody else along the way. Thanks for coming with us today, Jordan.
I had a blast, and I can just talk about me for hours. So,
Well, I think we should all camp together and drink rum and do that as soon as possible.
right. Thank you very much for the invitation, Jeannie, and thanks to everybody else here. This was great.
You've been listening to Writers Drinking Coffee, a labor of love and enthusiasm put together by the hosts. Our main web support magic is brought to you by Deirdre Schween, and our sound engineer and backup web spider is David Welsh. Our intro music is Pretty Maid Milking a Cow, and our exit music is Breakfast with a Morning Person, both by Michael Langberg. You can hear more from Michael Langberg on manyhatsmusic.com. Our sponsors are Art, Coffee, Chocolate, and Rum, and Jackal Designs, who just created a brand new 100 episode of Writers Drinking Coffee. So 100 reasons to come love us and go buy the t-shirt. And hey, thanks for listening out there.